Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm sharing a story that'll make you question everything you think you know about trust, technology, and revenge. This isn't fiction, this is real life, and it happened to someone closer to home than you might think. So, grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let me tell you about the day I discovered my wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was systematically destroying my life. My name is Marcus Chen, and I'm 42 years old. I run a cybersecurity consulting firm here in Austin, Texas, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. Perfect house in the hills, perfect wife, perfect marriage of 12 years. But as you'll learn in this story, perfection is often just an illusion, a carefully constructed lie that crumbles the moment you look too closely. It started with a notification on my phone at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday night in March. I remember the exact time because I'm the kind of person who notices details. In my line of work, details keep you alive. The notification was from my home security system, motion detected in my office. My wife Sarah was supposed to be at her book club meeting, but the timestamp showed she'd been home for over an hour. I rolled over and checked her side of the bed. Empty. Cold. She'd been staying late at these book club meetings a lot recently. I grabbed my phone and opened the security app, switching to the live feed from my office camera. What I saw made my blood run cold. Sarah was sitting at my desk, typing furiously on my personal laptop, the one I used for client work, the one that contained enough sensitive information to destroy not just my business, but potentially ruin the lives of dozens of high-profile clients who trusted me with their digital security. She was copying files to a USB drive, her movements quick and practiced. This wasn't her first time. I watched for 20 minutes, recording everything through the app. She accessed encrypted folders, downloaded client databases, and transferred financial records. Then she did something that made me realize this wasn't just about money. She installed a keylogger on my laptop, a program that would record every keystroke I made, every password I entered, every conversation I had online. My wife of 12 years was conducting corporate espionage against me. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I did what any good cybersecurity expert would do. I started gathering evidence. I pretended to be asleep when she slipped back into bed at 3:30 a.m., smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. I waited until she left for work the next morning. Then I examined my laptop. The keylogger was sophisticated, hidden deep in the system files. But I'm better at this game than whoever helped her install it. I didn't remove it. Instead, I created a virtual environment that would feed it false information while I conducted my real work on a clean machine. If someone wanted to spy on me, I'd make sure they only saw what I wanted them to see. Over the next week, I discovered the scope of Sarah's betrayal. She'd been accessing my systems for months, maybe longer. Bank accounts, client files, personal emails. Nothing was sacred. But here's what really twisted the knife. She wasn't working alone. The digital forensics told a story of coordinated effort, multiple IP addresses, professional-grade hacking tools. This was bigger than just a cheating wife looking for divorce ammunition. I hired a private investigator, someone outside my usual network, paid in cash, completely off the books. What he found exceeded my worst fears. Sarah had been in a relationship with David Morrison, the CEO of CyberShield, my biggest competitor, for over 8 months. But it wasn't just an affair. David had been systematically recruiting my employees, stealing my clients, and using the information Sarah provided to undercut my bids and sabotage my reputation. The book club meetings? Cover stories. Sarah had been meeting with David and his team, providing them with real-time intelligence about my operations. My own wife had become a double agent, and I was the target. But wait, it gets worse. Remember that keylogger? It was capturing everything, including the conversations Sarah thought were private. She was using my own security protocols against me, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She assumed I wouldn't notice, and she'd gotten sloppy. The keylogger was also recording her activities when she used my laptop for her own purposes. I discovered she'd been planning to leave me for over a year. Not just leave, destroy me. She'd been working with David to orchestrate a complete takeover of my business. They'd planned to wait until I lost enough clients to be financially vulnerable. Then David would swoop in with a buyout offer for pennies on the dollar. Sarah would get half my assets in the divorce, plus whatever David paid her for the intelligence she'd provided. It was brilliant, really. Almost foolproof. Almost. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in April. I was in my office, pretending to work on the compromised laptop, feeding false information to the keylogger about a fictional government contract worth millions. I wanted to see how quickly that information would make its way to David. The answer was less than 2 hours. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." But I was watching her through the security cameras as she typed it. She was in our bedroom, getting dressed for what was clearly a date. Black dress, expensive jewelry, the perfume she only wore for special occasions. I'd seen enough. Time to spring my trap. I spent the next 3 days implementing what I called Operation Digital Cleanup. First, I created a completely new digital infrastructure for my business. New servers, new security protocols, new everything. I migrated all my real client data to the new system, leaving only carefully crafted false information on the old one. Then I set up monitoring systems that would track every attempt to access the decoy data. Next, I reached out to my most trusted clients individually, explaining the situation in person. I couldn't go into details about Sarah's involvement, not yet, but I could warn them about potential security breaches and offer enhanced protection services. Every single one of them agreed to the new protocols. In fact, several of them mentioned that CyberShield had been aggressively pursuing their business recently, using information that should have been confidential. The puzzle pieces were falling into place. On Friday evening, I put the final phase of my plan into motion. I created a fake client database on the compromised laptop, complete with contact information for fictional companies and fabricated financial records. But here's the kicker. I embedded tracking software in every file. If someone tried to use this information, I'd know immediately. Then I waited. Sarah came home that night acting like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, asked about my day, and made dinner while chatting about her book club's latest selection. The performance was flawless. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, I might have believed her. "How was book club?" I asked casually. "Oh, you know how it is," she replied, not meeting my eyes. "Same old discussions about character development and plot twists. Sometimes I think these women take fiction way too seriously." The irony was almost too much to bear. That weekend, I told Sarah I needed to visit my mother in Houston for a few days. She seemed relieved, probably eager to have the house to herself. I didn't actually go to Houston. Instead, I checked into a hotel downtown and prepared for the endgame. Monday morning, I received the alert I'd been waiting for. Someone had accessed the fake client database and was attempting to use the information to contact the fictional companies. The IP address traced back to CyberShield's offices. They'd taken the bait. I immediately contacted my attorney and provided him with everything I'd gathered. The evidence was overwhelming: corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, unauthorized access to protected systems, and good old-fashioned adultery. But I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted justice. Tuesday afternoon, I drove to CyberShield's offices. The building was sleek and modern, all glass and steel, designed to project success and innovation. I asked to speak with David Morrison, claiming I had a business proposal. David was exactly what I'd expected. Mid-40s, expensive suit, the kind of confident smile that comes from years of successful manipulation. He invited me into his office, probably thinking I was ready to surrender. "Marcus Chen," he said, extending his hand. "I've heard so much about you. Your reputation precedes you." "I'm sure it does," I replied, not taking his hand. especially considering how much inside information you've been getting about my operations." His smile faltered slightly. "I'm not sure what you mean." I placed a folder on his desk. "IP logs showing unauthorized access to my systems, financial records of payments to informants, email communications discussing client information that should have been confidential, and security footage of my wife in my office, copying files to give to you." The color drained from his face as he opened the folder. This is a very serious accusation." "It's not an accusation," I said calmly. "It's a fact. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" He closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand that the information you've been using is completely false. Every client list, every financial record, every piece of intelligence my wife provided, it's all fabricated. The real question is, how many of your business decisions have been based on lies?" I could see the wheels turning in his head. If the information was false, then every strategy they'd developed, every client they'd pursued, every investment they'd made based on that intelligence was potentially worthless. "And the clients you've been pursuing based on our fake data," I continued. "They're all aware of the situation. They know you've been using stolen information to compete with me. How do you think that's going to affect your reputation in the industry?" David's confident demeanor cracked. "You can't prove any of this." "Actually, I can. The FBI's cybercrime division is very interested in cases involving corporate espionage. They'll be contacting you soon." I stood up to leave, but paused at the door. "Oh, and David? You might want to ask Sarah how much of your relationship was real, and how much was just part of the con. Because here's something you don't know. She's been recording your conversations too. Insurance policy, I suppose." The look of horror on his face was almost worth the last 12 years of marriage. I left CyberShield's offices and drove straight to a coffee shop where I'd arranged to meet Sarah. She was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking nervous. She'd been trying to reach me all day, probably after David had called her in a panic. "Marcus," she said as I sat down, "we need to talk." "Yes, we do. But first, I want you to know that I'm recording this conversation for legal purposes." Her eyes widened. "Legal purposes?" "Sarah, I know about David. I know about the stolen files. I know about the corporate espionage. I know about everything." She stared at me for a long moment, then her shoulders sagged. "How long have you known?" "Months. I've been watching you, documenting everything. The question is, why? Why throw away 12 years of marriage for someone like David Morrison?" She looked out the window, struggling with her answer. "You want to know the truth? I felt invisible. You were always working, always focused on your clients, your business. David made me feel important, like I mattered. So you decided to destroy me?" "I didn't mean for it to go this far. At first it was just information. David said he only wanted to compete fairly, to understand what he was up against. But then it became bigger, more complicated. And you went along with it." "I was in too deep. I couldn't get out." I leaned forward. "Sarah, you could have gotten out at any time. You chose not to. You chose to betray me, to steal from me, to put my clients at risk. That's not love. That's not even greed. That's pure malice." Tears started rolling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't undo 12 years of marriage based on lies. Sorry doesn't protect my clients from the damage you've caused." I stood up from the table. "I'm filing for divorce. The FBI is investigating the corporate espionage. You'll be hearing from my attorney tomorrow. Marcus, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can—" "No, we can't. Because this wasn't a mistake, Sarah. This was a choice. You chose David over me. You chose money over integrity. You chose to destroy the life we built together. Now you get to live with the consequences." I left her sitting there, crying into her coffee, and drove home to pack. I'd already put the house on the market and found a new place across town. A fresh start, away from the memories and the betrayal. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, FBI interviews, and media attention. The cybersecurity industry is smaller than you might think, and news travels fast. David Morrison was arrested on charges of corporate espionage and theft of trade secrets. CyberShield's stock price plummeted as clients fled and investors lost confidence. Sarah avoided criminal charges by cooperating with the investigation, but her reputation was destroyed. She'd been working as a marketing consultant for various tech companies, and word spread quickly about her involvement in the espionage case. No one in the industry would hire her. But here's the thing that really got to me. During one of our final conversations, she said something that stuck with me. "You always were better at this game than I gave you credit for." Game. She called it a game. 12 years of marriage, reduced to a game of digital chess where the loser gets their life destroyed. Maybe that's what hurt the most. Not the betrayal, not the theft, but the realization that someone I loved had seen our entire relationship as a competition to be won. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Sarah got her half of our liquid assets, but since most of my real wealth was tied up in the business she'd helped try to destroy, there wasn't much to split. She moved back to her hometown in Ohio. Last I heard, she was working at a local insurance agency. David Morrison plea bargained down to a reduced sentence, but CyberShield never recovered. The company was sold to a larger firm, and David disappeared from the industry entirely. Someone told me he's selling real estate in Florida now, but I don't really care enough to verify it. As for me, business has never been better. The publicity from the case actually helped establish my reputation as someone who takes security seriously. Seriously enough to catch professional spies operating in my own home. Several Fortune 500 companies have hired me specifically because of how I handled the situation. I've learned some valuable lessons from this experience. First, trust but verify, even with the people closest to you. Second, in the digital age, information is power, and power corrupts. Third, the most dangerous enemies are often the ones sleeping next to you. But maybe the most important lesson is this. Sometimes the people we love see us as obstacles to be overcome rather than partners to be cherished. And when that happens, when love becomes a game of manipulation and betrayal, the only winning move is to stop playing. I rebuilt my life from the ground up. New house, new security systems, new protocols for both business and personal relationships. I'm dating again, carefully, slowly, with full background checks and digital forensics on anyone who gets close. That might sound paranoid, but after what I've been through, a little paranoia seems like common sense. I still think about Sarah sometimes, usually late at night when the house is quiet and I'm reviewing security logs. I wonder if she ever really loved me, or if I was just a convenient target from the very beginning. I wonder if she regrets what she did, or if she's just angry that she got caught. But mostly, I've learned to stop wondering. The past is data you can't change. You can only learn from it and use it to make better decisions going forward. And going forward, I'm making sure that no one will ever have the opportunity to betray me like that again. Some people might say I'm too paranoid now, too careful, too closed off. But I sleep well at night knowing that my systems are secure, my data is protected, and my life is my own. In a world where everyone is connected, where privacy is a luxury and trust is a liability, maybe paranoia is just another word for wisdom. The funny thing is, I'm actually happier now than I was during those 12 years of marriage. I'm not constantly worrying about someone else's feelings, not walking on eggshells to avoid conflict, not pretending that everything is perfect when it's actually falling apart. I'm just living my life, running my business, and making sure that the people who trust me with their digital security can sleep as well as I do. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is really about. Trust. Trust is the foundation of every relationship, every business deal, every interaction we have with other people. When that trust is broken, when it's weaponized against you, it changes everything. It makes you question not just the person who betrayed you, but everyone else in your life. The real damage Sarah did wasn't financial. I recovered from that within a few months. The real damage was psychological. She made me doubt my own judgment, my ability to read people, my capacity for trust. That's the kind of damage that takes years to heal, if it ever fully heals at all. But I'm working on it. I'm learning to trust again, slowly and carefully. I'm building new relationships based on transparency and verification, rather than blind faith. I'm creating a life that's both secure and fulfilling, protected but not isolated. And sometimes when I'm feeling particularly philosophical, I'm actually grateful for what happened, because it taught me who I really am, what I'm capable of, and what I'm willing to accept in my life. It showed me that I don't need someone else to complete me. I just need to be complete myself. The security cameras in my new house still record everything. The firewalls still monitor every connection, and the background checks still run on everyone who gets close. But now it's not out of fear. It's out of wisdom. I've learned that the price of security is eternal vigilance, and I'm willing to pay that price. Because I've seen what happens when you let your guard down, when you trust without verifying, when you assume that love is enough to protect you from betrayal. I've learned that the people who know you best are often the ones who can hurt you most, and that the most dangerous attacks come from inside your own defenses. But I've also learned that you can survive betrayal, you can rebuild after devastation, and you can create a life that's both secure and meaningful. It just takes time, patience, and the willingness to learn from your mistakes. So that's my story. A cautionary tale about love, trust, and the digital age we live in. A reminder that in a world where information is power, you need to be very careful about who you give that power to. And a testament to the fact that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, living securely, and living on your own terms. The next time you're tempted to trust someone with access to your digital life, remember this story. Remember that love can be a weapon, that trust can be a vulnerability, and that the person sleeping next to you might be your greatest threat. But also remember that knowledge is power, that preparation is protection, and that no matter how carefully someone plans to betray you, there's always a way to turn the tables if you're smart enough, patient enough, and ruthless enough to do what needs to be done. In the end, that's what this story is really about. Not the betrayal, but the response. Not the attack, but the defense. Not the game, but the refusal to keep playing by someone else's rules. And if you're going through something similar, if you're discovering that someone you trusted has been working against you, remember this. You're stronger than you think, you're smarter than they assume, and you have more options than you realize. The game isn't over until you decide it's over. And sometimes, the best way to win is to change the rules entirely. Thanks for listening to my story. If you found it helpful, educational, or just entertaining, hit that like button and subscribe for more content. And remember, in a world where everyone is watching, make sure you're watching back. Stay secure, stay vigilant, and stay true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's all you really have. Your integrity, your intelligence, and your ability to adapt and overcome whatever life throws at you. Until next time, this is your host reminding you that the truth is always worth fighting for, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts.